So I have here iced coffee again because it's hot. And still can't live without my coffee, but I can do iced coffee. And today's coffee is amazing. It's the most amazing coffee. Caledonia, thank you. She brought in pods that were coconut, and I kind of thought, ooh, coconut coffee? Who would drink coconut coffee? But whatever. And so it took me a little while, Caledonia, to finally try it because I thought, oh man, I'm not sure. Oh my gosh, it's like a homemade marshmallow with toasted coconut on it. It's amazing. It's actually delicious. So there's not much left, Caledonia. So thank you for bringing that in because I loved it. So let's get started. We've got a full house in here with me. I've got teacher Michelle. She's been watching Facebook and going to follow along there, making sure we stay live and technologically savvy. Ricky is running the world. And then Hitomi, who is a graduate of ours and has started working with us as an assist. She is here as well, and she'll be joining you on YouTube. Then in the virtual world, Caledonia on Facebook. Teacher Carolyn is on YouTube and probably popping onto Facebook too because she kind of goes both places. And Susie's on YouTube. So we've got y'all here. David's with us. I'm not sure if he's on YouTube or on Facebook or if he's flipping back and forth, but he's virtually with us as well. And we have you. So please, please, please take a moment and introduce yourself. If you're on your phone, if you turn it sideways, it'll be a little bit larger and give you a better picture. If the comments are in your way, you can swipe it. It'll make the comments go off. If you're on your computer, you can go to full screen. And if you're on your TV, I'm already larger than life. Oh my gosh, all of these little disclaimers to go with stuff. So I'm thinking that the air is on in the office or somewhere, so we're going to want to check that and get it turned off because I can kind of hear it buzzing around in the background. So we're going to do that, and then you may hear the mailman come today because the doorbell may ring. So it's going to be a lot of things going on. Shout out, we've got some students that I want to recognize. I have my handy dandy list. I signed certificates today and send them out. So Amanda, Emma, and Mary, your certificates are on the way. You'll get them in a little bit. And then we have our latest fully FDI certified floral designer, Caitlin. Your certificate is on the way as well, so congratulations to you. And then one more bit of housekeeping before we start with flowers. We have so much fun to do today. We're talking about creative entrepreneurs, but we have to remember our FDI graduates. And today I want to say congratulations and kudos to Michael Smith. And Ricky's got some pictures that she'll show you. Michael just competed last week in the Florida State Floral Association design competition. And the pictures you're seeing there are his work. Go ahead and just kind of flip through. I think there's 3 different pictures. And
yeah. So this is the boutique arrangement.
Okay, we've got the one, and then what's next?
We have the table arrangement.
Okay, so boutique and table and
the headpiece arrangement.
Oh, and the headpiece, I loved that. That was so amazing. So we've got 3 different arrangements there that Michael Smith did in the competition, and he won. First place designer of the year. So all of you give a shout out to Michael Smith. Give him hands clapping and a horn tooting and every icon you can think about, but congratulate away. Show him the love because I am so dang proud of him. First place Florida State Floral Association designer of the year. That's pretty grand. So proud of you, Michael. Good job. So let's get going. We're talking creative entrepreneur. And the question is, what is a creative entrepreneur? Kind of a long set of letters all together. A creative entrepreneur is, simply put, someone that is able to earn their living with their creativity. and their skills. Yeah. So a creative entrepreneur earns their living through their personal creativity and their skills. So many of you may already be creative entrepreneurs, or maybe that's kind of your goal, is to become a creative entrepreneur. For my first arrangement, I thought I'd use the floral netting. And one thing that I always just have it in place already and don't talk about, but I wanted to point out, is it's multiple layers. It's not just a flat piece that goes into the container. You need multiple layers so that when you put your stems through, it holds everything in place. That way you don't have your stems going all wonky on you. You don't want that. You want to be able to control them. So by going multiple layers, it allows you to have the ability to control and be organized with your stem placement and actually hold it in place. So while I tape this, let's talk about why you might want to be a creative entrepreneur. Yeah. Not everybody wants to be. Well, I'm not taping it down very well. What's going on here? Let's get this going. Give myself a little more room. Tuck it in. Bring it across. There we go. Boy, fail. Now you know why I tape it in before I come on camera. Because then I don't have to do it in front of you and have it pop out all over. Let's try that again. Bring it in, taping it down, giving it a shove, getting the sharp ends on the inside. There we go. Now I got one side down. Then I like to go back and do a crossbar, just like so, to make sure that it stays put. And again. Okay. Then you can force it down in there a little more, and then I repeat that. Coming from the opposite direction. So why do you want to be a creative entrepreneur? Why don't you put in your answers there? What do you think? Why would you want to be a creative entrepreneur? Be interesting to see your thought process on that. Okay. One main reason that I find value in being a creative entrepreneur is that you can be in control of your earnings. If you have a job, that's where you get your earnings, and you lose your job, you have no earnings whatsoever. Whereas if you're a creative entrepreneur, you probably have several customers. So if you lose one customer, you lose one portion of your earnings, not all your earnings. So that diversification of income can actually be really wonderful, especially in this day and age where the economy is a little scary. I'm sure you've noticed that too. And so if you can have that diversity of income that gives you a little bit more security, it can be fabulous. Also, flexibility. Flexibility of time. Flexibility of what you do. You know, some people are morning people. They like to get up bright and early, start the day early. Other people are night people. They don't even get going until 10 or 11 at night, and then they continue on like that. So having that flexibility of timing, if you're a night person, you can work at the night most of the time. If you're a day person, you can work in the daytime. And that's a real treasure. So while I start designing here, Michelle, anything going on out there?
Well, yes, apparently YouTube doesn't want to play nicely today, and we're not showing up over there.
Oh no, so anybody watching me on YouTube, you're not watching me. So imagine that. Well, I should talk to the YouTube people and tell them to go over to Facebook. Well, that's just not a good thing, is it? So sometimes YouTube doesn't play nicely, and so those of you that are here with us, you're on Facebook with me, so welcome. And we'll just talk Facebook today, and we'll apologize to our YouTube friends for whatever reason. We can't start over, we can't fix it. It is what it is, unfortunately. So those of you that are popping into here from YouTube, hopefully.
They are.
Oh, good. Okay, so then you can join us here, because having the creative entrepreneur discussion is going to be a pretty important one. So if you missed at the beginning, we did a shout out to Michael Smith, who got the Florida State Designer of the Year. And we talked about graduates who have certificates on the way. And then we've been discussing why you would want to be a creative entrepreneur, which a creative entrepreneur is someone who earns their living through their creativity and skills. So the question is, why would you want to be? And I brought up that it gives you flexibility on your income. That diversification is more safety because you're not going to lose all your customers at the same time, except for during COVID, when you might for a little while. But we used to say you never lost all your customers at the same time. But COVID sort of proved us wrong on that one. But they've come back, so it's not a forever loss. And then we talked about the flexibility of timing. So have anybody else come up with any other thoughts as to why you'd want to be a creative entrepreneur? Not yet? We'll give them some time to come up with that. So other reasons that I had is also just personal satisfaction. Think about it. You get to do something you love. You get to do what you want to do. You get to be proud of what you do. So personal satisfaction is a big one. I think that's a very important one. And then for those of you that are a little more practical, another benefit is potentially taxes. When you are self-employed as a creative entrepreneur, there are tax benefits that go with that. So that can be a real plus too if you're looking at the more practical side of things. But I'm sure there's many more reasons that you would want to be a creative entrepreneur, but that was kind of what I came up with to begin with. Then you think, why wouldn't you want to be a creative entrepreneur? Because that's an important one too. Why would you not want to be? And there's lots of reasons there. Let's see if you can come up with some of those, because there's answers there. Teacher Michelle, what have you got?
Well, there's a lot of echoing that. Doing what we love, freedom, and then Pam's, I love it. I like the flexibility. I can work in my jammies.
That's so true. You can work anywhere, anytime, anyhow. And David and I always have a joke that we talk about, is that we work all of the time and we work none of the time. And when you're a creative entrepreneur, that's kind of the way it is. You're always working because you're always thinking about what you need to be doing and how you can do it better and how to meet the needs of your clients. But you're doing it on your schedule. So if you want to go have lunch with a girlfriend, you stop and go have lunch with a girlfriend. If you want to meet a friend for happy hour, you can shut it down, go to happy hour. Now you may come back and work at 10 o'clock at night, but you work all the time and you work none of the time. It works well with the family too. If you've got children, you can be a parent, spend time, connect, have dinner, play games, whatever, and then when they go to bed, you can invest in yourself and have that flexibility. So all those things are good answers. Teacher Michelle.
Well, Alana chimed in with an interesting perspective as a freelancer, that she said it definitely helps when one shop is slower and doesn't need as much help as others. Just a little more legwork in scheduling, but it's a lot of diversity.
And glad you brought that up, because that's very true. And when I said, why would you not want to be a creative entrepreneur? And one of the reasons that you might not want to be is because you have other responsibilities that you can't have that freedom to be independent right now. Maybe the children are too young. Maybe you're taking care of parents. Maybe you've got a house payment that's just barely getting by. Who knows what your reason might be, but there are times that being a creative entrepreneur maybe isn't in the cards. And maybe it is that you just don't want that kind of independence and responsibility. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to go to work, do your thing, walk out the door, and leave it behind you. And it doesn't matter. And as a creative entrepreneur, you can't totally do that because it's still on your shoulders the rest of the time. So in that case, many times being an independent freelance designer is better because someone else is taking care of the day-to-day stuff, and you go in when they're busy doing more of what I call the fun stuff. And so being a freelance designer is somewhat a creative entrepreneur, but yet it's not quite, because you're not the bottom line when it comes down to it. There's somebody else that is taking care of things and making sure that you get paid. So that may be something that sounds really attractive to you. Or maybe your life is just so complicated that you only want to do things that give you joy. You just want to make pretty. You don't want to have to worry about anything else. And in that case, maybe just working in a flower shop where you go in, you poke flowers, you go home. You don't have to worry, you don't have to plan, you don't have to think about it, you don't have to try to cobble together schedules of freelance. You just go, you make pretty, you come home, and you're done. There's some real value to that. So being a creative entrepreneur, you don't have to do it any one way. You can do it what works best for you. The key is to find what gives you joy and what seems to work best for you. Now, you can see when I'm working with floral netting, although I have some control, I don't have full control. So my flowers are spinning a bit and they kind of move around. But that's one of the joys of working this way. And if you're a creative entrepreneur, you get to choose. You get to decide. Do you want to do floral netting so that you're more in an eco mode? Do you want that looser look that is a little more casual, that things are moving around on you? Or do you want control? And both are good, but they're different, and you get to decide which way you want to do that. Now it's kind of fun. I did the green trick dianthus, and then I'm bringing in some purple carnations. They're actually the same family. They're both in the carnation family, dianthus, but look how different they look. One becomes looking more like a foliage, and the other one brings in the color, adds a little bit of visual impact. So kind of fun.
Gosh, that looks great on camera. That color progression from the burgundy line through the middle gets pale in the green. It looks amazing.
Oh, good. You always wonder sometimes if it's going to look good on camera, so thank you. So if you are thinking about being a creative entrepreneur, there are steps that you need to take that will help lead you to success. And that's what we want to talk about today. And for those of you that are creative entrepreneurs already, if you have ideas that you would share, please type them in. Let the other tulips know. Give them some suggestions as to how to be successful. If it's something you're dreaming of doing and you have a question about it, type that in. And hopefully we'll get it all answered for you so that you can get some direction and build into your life. I'm trying to decide what other flowers I want to put in here. I think I'm going to do some of the little pink roses. But the first step, in my opinion, to becoming a creative entrepreneur is to do your research and really explore. And what does that mean? It could be, taking a workshop. Like we have the online fundamentals. It's a fun way to explore. It just gives you a sampling of what floral education is like, and it introduces you to a few different styles of design so that you can go, oh, well, I really hate that, or ooh, I really love that. and you make some choices. So getting research started is a good beginning. Ricky, what you got?
Amy has a question. She says she has a hard time transforming free foam. What, do you have any good tips for that?
You know, transportation is a big one, because when you're foam free, that's water sloshing around in there. And just a couple of weeks ago, I had a moment to sit down with Sula, who does floral design that is mostly foam free, and she does deliver it. And I asked her that exact question. I said, how do you get it delivered? And she said she always sends it out with an extra vase of water so that the driver takes it and tops it off when they get there, which is a little bit tricky. You're like, that's a lot of water to be sloshing around in your car. But we're going to go ahead and do a delivery discussion one of these days where we go into it in more depth, because that is a common question as to how do you do that. Turning it around so that I can see this side, you can see that side, and I'm going to put a few more flowers in here so I can see what's happening. But you can see I'm doing it two-sided. I'm not making it a one-sided arrangement so that it looks good from both directions, and then adjusting. So doing your research, taking a workshop, maybe not doing the entire class right away, but exploring it with a one-day workshop. We do it in person, we do it online, and you can sort of see if that meets your needs. Then I always tell people, go for a walk. Go outside and do window shopping. Look at the different stores. Look what the flower shops are looking like in your area. Look who is selling flowers. And just explore that way, getting a little more research done. Read books, go on YouTube, Google it, but do your research to see what are the options and how does that fit in with your goals and your plans as a creative entrepreneur. The more research you can do ahead of time, the better, period. Because if you have studied and looked into it, there's less chance of making mistakes as you go forward because you did your research at the beginning, and it allows you to then be successful a little more rapidly, which I think is very important. Then after you get your research, or at the same time, you can kind of mix and match these. You need to prepare. And what I mean by that is you need to prepare a space. You need to be able to have a spot that is yours for being creative. Because if it's too hard to even get out and practice creativity, you don't. You just don't even do it. It doesn't need to be a big space. You don't need a whole studio. You don't need to take out and empty a bedroom. It could be a single table that you set up in a creative mode. Put things there that make you feel good. Make things there that spark creativity in you. It could be a book you love. It could be a special rock that you love. It could be a vase. It could be some ribbons. But stage a spot for creativity, and then prepare time, space as well. Yeah. So you need a physical space, some spot that you can be creative, and then you need to allow time for creativity. And if you say, oh, well, I don't have time, I'm too busy, then you can't do this. You have to allow time. And it doesn't have to be an 8-hour day. It doesn't have to be a month. It could be that you say, on Tuesday, from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I practice creativity and I work on my goal of being a creative entrepreneur. 3 o'clock on Wednesday, joining us could help you start moving on towards being a creative entrepreneur. I'm going to move this aside. We'll finish it off camera and get a picture of it, post it on social media. It'll be posted on the Tulip group first tomorrow, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday we'll get it posted on the rest of the social channels. So do you like that one? Do you think it turned out okay? Is that a design you would like to make? Or is it one that you go, ooh, I don't like that one? We don't all like the same things, so I'm kind of curious.
Well, they like it because they're hitting the heart button.
Oh, I get my hearts, okay. We don't get thumbs up because we're not on YouTube, so dangers. But share the hearts. If you know somebody who wants to be a creative entrepreneur, tag them, share this video out, invite them to join us, because maybe they can watch it on replay, but it's a good chance to think about how do you prepare for this. So as you're preparing, you prepare your space and you prepare time. Do both of those things. And that way, when you get moving forward, you've done actionable steps that actually put you there, that get you started. Then it's time to get real. Before you're researching, you're preparing, you're thinking, you're just sort of getting going, but it's still not real. Wait, I think this tape is bad. This is really weird. I'm gonna get a different roll of tape because that has been springing on me this whole time.
Every time you've used it.
I know, it's like, does it not like me? What's the deal?
So Leanne, when you're talking about setting aside a space, you don't necessarily mean somebody has to go rent a studio, right? They can work anywhere.
Yeah, you can work anywhere, and you may not have even space in your home that works well because maybe it's too cozy. And so it could be even as simple as a portable table that you bring out for an hour a day and set it up. It could be a rolling cart that you can push out of the way into a closet or into a corner, but that you can just have this cart that you work on. I know many people find that using the top of their dryer actually works out well. I know that sounds silly, but the dryer, if you have the front opener, that top surface can be left blank, except for when you're folding clothes, but just don't fold any clothes. Don't even do it. So using the top of the dryer can be good. Plus, wouldn't that be more enjoyable when you're doing laundry to have your pretty creative stuff there? It inspires you to go do other things. So yeah, your space can be anything. It does not need to be that studio that you dream of. It's just a spot that you dedicate to your creative soul, and then time that you dedicate to your creative soul. So in preparation, you've got to really do both, time and space. If you don't, then it's not going to work, pretty much for sure.
Well, Julie said that she designs outside on her picnic table. Pam does design work in her garage. And Scott reminded us that a lot of wholesalers will let you rent space from them and work on site there.
So true. And all of those work great for the actual work. And you also want a spot for the thinking work. So something that is creative inspiration to you, a spot that you feel good sitting and reading a book to learn a new technique, watching your online flower school to capture a new skill. So you want both. But yes, the wholesalers have been really quite generous with their space, and it's a great way for someone, especially when they're getting started, because they might not have enough space or refrigeration, and the wholesalers actually let you use their coolers and everything. Now this one I've taped foam in. Maybe instead of being quite so avant-garde and out there, you like things to be a little more controlled. And so by having foam, you've got more control. You can force things to stay where you want them to be. It is more easily delivered because the water is contained, and so it all works. So then the next step is to make it real. When you've researched, you've prepared, but it's all in the abstract. Then you need to make it real. You need to get certified. You've got to get your skills. You've got to get your education. So taking basic floral design, taking advanced floral design, getting the data in your brain and the skills in your fingers so that you can truly give your clients the quality product that they deserve. And that's commitment, because it's commitment financially, it's commitment time-wise, it's an effort. Those of you that have done flower school with us know that it's not just, oh, gee, we play with flowers. There's a lot to it. And if you do it well, it's real. There's no doubt about it. Then get your business name. Yeah, pick a name. You can always change it later. You say, oh, I'm not sure I'm ready. No, get a name. Get a business license. Get a business card. Get a business checking account. Invest in yourself. What you got, Michelle?
Well, two things. One, on business cards. I know that a lot of people think that they're old school and don't need them. I do not agree. That is the tiniest little billboard you can give anybody.
You know, it's so true, and people like it because it gives them something to hang on to remember. And if you want to combine old school, new school, put a QR code on the back. Hello, and then that takes them to everything. Do you know what a QR code is? If you don't, you need to. But old school business cards were a thing of the past, or so they said, but no. In fact, they're more important than they ever were, because people like the tangible. They like that hands-on. They like something to remember, and especially if it's a cool card. I know at AIFD I met a gentleman that had a great card, and I still have it sitting on my desk because I was just so impressed with the card. And then I was sitting with Gina, and she showed me her new little square thing. It's smaller than a business card, but square, has a protea on the front, QR code on the back. How cool is that? It was just perfect. I was so impressed. So I've used silver dollar eucalyptus, calcinia, creating a more controlled form, but still keeping it casual. And then I think I'll bring in some ocean song roses, just because they're so pretty.
I'm glad you called out the calcinia, because that was my next question, because they all want to know, what's that fabulous fluffy stuff?
That fabulous fluffy stuff is calcinia. I believe it's CALCYNIA, and it is so pretty. And it comes in a few different colors, and it also dyes nicely, so oftentimes you'll see it dyed. It is one of my favorite fillers of the moment. You know, I go back and forth with different things, but I'm truly loving it. Ocean Song is just that soft lavender, very lovely. So getting real, get certified, get your education, commit to yourself, invest in yourself, get your business name, get your business license, get your business checking account. Doesn't mean you have to do anything with it immediately, but when you get that started, you're making it real and you're making a commitment to yourself. So you're changing a dream into a reality, and it ups your game. I know that sounds silly, but it will actually make you do better as you're working on being a creative entrepreneur than if you didn't. It does make a difference. Flipping it around so you can see, again, working on all the way around, just because feeling well-rounded today, I guess. I don't know. But just bringing it in and around.
So Leanne, I just got an instant message, and somebody has a question about education and how long does it take through us to become FDI certified?
Gotcha. And that's something you got to think about, is how long is this going to take? Because you're eager, you want to get going, you want to make this career move, you want to be a creative entrepreneur. Don't rush it, because you're wiser to be slow and methodical, but doesn't mean it has to be slow. If you wanted to be a certified floral designer and you were able to come and do it in person, where We are right here in Portland, Oregon. You come in, you go to work 8 hours a day on your career. You can do the whole certification in a month, which is really fast. I mean, think about it. Jump starting a career in 4 weeks. How cool is that? If you're not able to come here and leave your responsibilities at home, then the online allows you to become a fully certified floral designer with the comfort of staying at home, working it around everything else, all your other responsibilities, because I mean, you're busy. Life gets complicated. So stepping away for a month is not always possible. And by doing it online, it's self-paced. So you could do it in a month if you wanted to, because it's the same as the classroom. You probably won't. Your life is too complicated, you're too busy, and you can't dedicate 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So realistically, I would say it was going to take you between 3 and 6 months to do basic and advanced. Like 3 to 4 months for the basic, and then 2 to 3 months for the advanced, or thereabouts. But again, it really depends on how much time you can devote to it. Because if you can devote 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you could do it in that 4-week window. It's definitely possible. So this product that I'm using is a European miniature aster, and it's just a lovely, lovely thing. And this stem has been out of water, obviously, because it's kind of dead. But this one is absolutely gorgeous, and you can see how that deep eggplant goes so well with that soft lavender of the ocean song.
Solveig had an interesting comment, Leanne, about giving yourself the time, the 3 to 6 months. She said you need to give yourself space to really soak in the lesson.
So true. Because yes, you can race through it, but then you need to go back and watch again and participate again, because you'll see things differently. It will change your perception the second time around, and definitely give you a completely different perspective. You'll notice things that you didn't notice the first time through. So if you can do that, that would be the wise thing to do, because watching it 2 times, 3 times, every time you go back, you're going to see it differently. It's not going to be the same lesson, even though it is, but your knowledge base has changed, so you'll see things differently, and you'll go, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? And it'll be a light bulb moment, and you'll just fly. It's kind of amazing. So that's very, very, very true. So true. Then while you are doing your education and investing in yourself and preparing and getting everything done, you need to build connections. And I can't impress that upon you enough. And I know many of you are tulips that join us every week, and you build connections right here. Or you're in the Tulip People group and you build connections there. And that is so vitally important. Because being a creative entrepreneur can be lonely. There are times that you feel like you're all by yourself, that you don't know what to do, and you're terrified because you're alone and you don't know. And then if you've got somebody you can make a connection with, all of a sudden you feel okay again, and it's all right. And that is so important. You know, and it can be connections with fellow students, and that's where you get it here and on the Tulip group. It can be connections with your wholesalers, because if you interact with the wholesalers, they can help you. They've been down the road before. They know what's worked for other people or not worked, and so they can help guide you. Getting connected with flower farmers. Maybe you want to be a flower farmer. Get involved with them. You know, you might find them at a farmer's market. You might find them through a website. You might find them through recommendations from another florist, another student. But connecting with the farmers, and then if you know you want to be a florist, a creative entrepreneur, connect with the other florists in your area. You know, we're all better together. And if you go at it as a lone ranger, it might not work so well. Because there's going to be a day you need to rely on somebody. And if you have someone in your community that you can rely on, I know when I used to do my living doing weddings, it was so funny because sometimes something would just go wrong. And you're like, oh my gosh. And you look up real quick, okay, what florist do I know in this area? And dash to their flower shop. Do you have any boutonniere pins? I forgot my boutonniere pins. And you can get boutonniere pins. And those connections kind of save the day for you. So thinking about how you go about that, who you can connect with, other business owners. You know, it doesn't have to be a flower shop. Maybe you just want to join any business association in your neighborhood, because connecting with other business owners, A, they could ultimately become a customer, but B, they're going to be solving the same business problems you're solving as things come up in your community. Maybe they're changing a tax structure. Maybe they're putting in a visitor tax. Maybe they are doing a street fair. And if you're part of the business group, then you're part of it and you can be more involved. And sometimes, especially if you're an introvert, that's the hardest part. Oh my gosh, it's like the last thing you want to do. You're like, no, I don't want to go to these things. I'm tired. I don't like people. I don't want to do that. But it is your job. And that's what you got to kind of treat it as. This is my job, is to participate in these things. And ironically, when you force yourself to do it, 9 times out of 10, it's not nearly as bad as you thought it was going to be. It was just the fear of being the new kid on the block and going, oh, I don't know anything. But people are generally nice. People generally want to help the new kid on the block. And fellow business owners are going to think it's kind of cool, like, oh wow, we're going to have a new flower shop in town. How interesting is that? You know, well, I'm not really a flower shop. I only do weddings, or I only do this, but that's great. Make those connections. Then I would look for other artisans, other artists like yourself, but maybe a different medium. There's somebody that makes cards. Is there a painter, a potter? Getting together with other artistic people will build artistic thoughts in your head. And so it gives you the ability to continue on. Now, I'm going to go ahead and stop on this one. All I've done is Basic Floral Design 1. It's a round arrangement. That's all it is. So if you've done Basic Floral Design, you know I broke the line of the container. I concealed my mechanics. I used a radial binding point. I worked on spacing. I have basically a monochromatic color harmony, although I put some pink in here, which switches it slightly to analogous, but I'm going to stick with monochromatic. So tints, tones, and shades of purple. I didn't have a purple carnation. I could have used my mini cards, but I didn't because I didn't think about it. But this is what you learn in the very beginning of class. How to create the form, how to do the spacing, how to do texture, getting the color correct, having the emphasis, having contrast, having overall harmony and unity. So all the things you already know. If you don't know that, that's what you got to do. Because if you want to be a creative entrepreneur, you have to have the knowledge and you have to have the skill, and then you can do it. It's not that hard as long as you focus and really work at it. Do you like that one? Okay, so which do you like better? The all over the place or the more controlled one?
Do that again. Well, they've given both of them a lot of love. This one is just gorgeous on camera. And they gave your comments about networking a lot of love, a lot of yes ma'am and right on, that times have changed because you didn't used to be quote unquote friendly with the neighboring florist. And we've gotten better at that.
You know, that's so true because things go in cycles. And when I first started in the floral industry, it was a very connected, friendly, loving industry. And florists would help florists. If somebody had a huge wedding, this florist would come over. If somebody had a huge sympathy, that florist would go over. And everybody helped each other. And it was truly, truly, truly a wonderful world to be in. Then we went through a spell in the 80s to 90s that were kind of evil. It wasn't very friendly. There was a lot of meanness, and a lot of it was simply because the world was transitioning and people were afraid, and so they put up walls to protect themselves out of fear, but in reality they just hurt themselves. And now, with the creative generation, the maker generation, this new reinvention of the flower world, it's gotten friendly again, and it's much more connected. And you're going to encounter some that are part of that old school that are not connectable, and that's okay. It's their loss. Just move on down the road. Let them go, because you can't control it. You know, you wish you could, but you can't control it. And that's just going to be some icky people. But that's the whole world. You know, we can't all be perfect like me, or you, or Teacher Michelle, or Ricky, or Hitomi, or Carolyn, or Susie, and Caledonia. I mean, we are the epitome of perfection. I know that. It's so hard. But there's a few icky people out there, and so just stay away from them. Let them be icky. Okay, now this is going to be one that I may get some pushback on, but I believe that when you are transitioning to a creative entrepreneur, you should start where you are. And what do I mean by that? You're currently doing something. Okay. Maybe you're raising your children. Maybe you are bussing tables. Maybe you are a barista. Maybe you're a tax accountant. Maybe you're a dentist. Maybe you're a nurse. Maybe you work in the restaurant world. Maybe you drive a bus. Don't know. But you're somewhere, you're doing something. You have a life. Don't eliminate that life. You don't want it to be black and white. You want transition, because if you eliminate and you make black and white, you're putting a huge burden on your creative soul that you don't have to absorb. You don't have to take that burden. So start where you are. Definitely keep your day job, so to speak, and start transitioning. How do you prepare a space in your current world to have a creative spot and to have creative time? Possibly you can take your day job and turn it to a 4-day-a-week job instead of a 5-day-a-week job. Possibly you can keep the day job and start working Saturdays. I know, now you're working all the time, but it's an investment in yourself and you're doing it for the moment. Maybe you've got your family on Saturday and Sunday, you've got your day job Monday through Friday, there's no time at all. Guess what? Maybe you start getting up at 5 a.m. and spending an hour on you. Taking time that's just for you. Because if you don't have the time to dedicate to you, then don't do anything. It's not going to work. You've got to dedicate some time to you. So keep that day job. Keep the ability to have connection in your life. I mean, you can't ditch your children. They are your children. You can't ditch your day job because you got to eat and you got to have a roof over your head. But you can use that as a step towards being a creative entrepreneur. And by doing that, you don't put that burden of, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. Oh my gosh, I can't afford to put gas in my car. That burden isn't there. And so then it allows your creative soul to exist and to continue on. Without that ability to exist, all of a sudden your fears overtake and everything just comes crashing down. It gets so overwhelming. So Leanne says, keep your day job. Go to flower school online so that you can do it in the middle of the night or whenever you have to do it. I know I've had some students that I hear that they are waiting to pick their kids up at school and they're watching flower school on their phone, or they are waiting for the kids to do their swimming lesson, or they're on lunch at their other job, or they're even working at their other job with buds in their ears and pretending not to be watching anything on their phone, but they are. Don't sneak too much to where you get fired. But, paying attention like that allows you to continue getting better and better and better. I need some more flowers. I gotta get some more stuff here.
Leanne, that's great advice. I went 6 years with 2 careers before I committed wholly to flowers. Best choice I ever made, but I used my vacation time to take Thursdays and Fridays off to do all my design for the weekend's events.
And that's, I think, a lot of people that are in a professional career that they've, accumulated some vacation days, and they take that Friday, Saturday out and invest in themselves with their vacation time, and then that day job finances your transition to the job you want, to being a creative entrepreneur. And it's a brilliant thing to do. And if you have the option to downsize and minimize your expenses, that's always good too. Now, you may not be able to. You may be in a position where this is what your bills are and you've got to pay those bills. But if you're in a position of saying, gee, you know what, if I moved into a smaller house, or if I got a smaller car, or if I do this, or this, I could have more money and time to devote to being a creative entrepreneur. That works out really, 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 really well. Then as you're working, I guess the next thing I would say is to pace yourself, because it can get a little overwhelming and it can get up to be a lot, especially if you're trying to do it with a life. And so you're going to school, you're working a job, you've got a family, you've got to take the dog for a walk, you've got to feed the cat, you've got all these things, and it can just get overwhelmed. So taking time to prioritize and to focus so that you aren't just giving up because they're overwhelmed. Pacing it, saying, okay, realistically, I can devote 1 hour a day to my growth as a creative entrepreneur. And just do 1 hour a day. Put that in there. Or maybe it's, I can devote 1 weekend a month that I don't have other commitments, and so I can focus for 1 weekend a month. And just do that. Don't make yourself crazy, because it's easy to make yourself crazy. And if you do that, if you make yourself crazy, you're going to burn out and you're going to give up and you're going to be disappointed because that wasn't what you wanted to have happen. But if you allow yourself pacing and time, then all of a sudden everything just sort of works okay. Now, on this one, I'm just going to do a bouquet, because maybe as a creative entrepreneur, what you want to do is to provide flowers every week to people in their home, to where they just have a little bit of beauty that comes delivered to their door, and it's not overwhelming to you. You just make a dozen bouquets and deliver them, and you get to feed your creative soul because you're working with flowers, and you get to build the business that you want. It may not be exactly what you want yet, but it's the starting point, and it allows you to begin as opposed to just say, oh, I wish. You know, sometimes you've got to jump and say, more than wish, I am. I am doing this. Not just dreaming it. I am doing it. I am a creative entrepreneur. I am earning a living doing what I love. But it all comes down to really breaking it into actionable steps. Don't just sit and go, oh, I'm going to do it. What do you need to do it? You need to do your research. You need to prepare. You need to get real. You need to connect. You need to keep that day job. I know you might not like it, but it's easier to keep a day job if you have a goal in sight and you know where you're heading, because then the day job is a means to the end. Oop, that's broken. That one's not going to work. And so the day job isn't so bad then, because you know that it's going to allow you to become a creative entrepreneur. Then pacing yourself, knowing that, okay, so this might not all happen today, but I'm on a schedule to get this done in the next 6 months or in the next 2 years or whatever is realistic for you. Don't put, again, more of a burden on you. Don't put some unrealistic expectation that you go, oh, I failed. Because no, you didn't fail. Maybe you just didn't do enough research. Getting that education, getting real, getting connected, and doing what you love, making a living as a creative entrepreneur, living the dream. Now, I'm not going to deny that it's not always fun. I mean, there's still going to be a bad day. There's still going to be a thing where you think, what was I thinking? Whose stupid idea was this? I hate my life. But you know what? Put on your big girl panties, dust yourself off, go, okay, I knew there would be days like this. Or as my mother used to tell me, you know, if we started whining too much, she'd just look at us and go, tough, tough Cocoa Puffs. And I'm like, that's so heartless. But you know what? It's true. You're going to have a bad day. It's going to be not the dream that you had. You're going to be there at midnight going, oh, just no, I hate my life. You know, say, oh, right, Leanne's mom, it's just tough, tough Cocoa Puffs, and move on. Because it's just one step in the process. Now, next week, I'm going to do the Creative Entrepreneur Part 2. Today was really focused on just getting set. What do you need to do? You need to research, you need to prepare, you've got to get your skills, you've got to get your education, you've got to be certified, you've got to get your connections. I mean, lots of gots. Next week, we're going to talk about, okay, you're here. So if you've already gone to flower school, if you're already starting this, that's what I'll be talking to next week. Okay, what are the things you got to think about? Now you are a creative entrepreneur. How do we keep moving forward so that we get the career we love, we don't burn out? So it's kind of two parts here. Today was preparation. Next week is implementation. So set your alarm, don't miss out. We'll figure out what happened with YouTube. It's probably they're doing some update or they just decided they don't like me. That could be it. It's one of those days. Tough, tough Cocoa Puffs. But it's all going to be next week, perfectly fine. We'll get pictures of these. They'll be posted on social media. Be sure if someone else should watch this, tag them, share it out. Help me spread the word. Help people become the creative entrepreneurs they want to be. And let them know about Flower School. Because we love you when you do that. So thank you so much. And I'll see you all next week. Same time, same place. I'll probably wear a different dress. But other than that, it's all the same. See you next week. Get out there and go do something you love.